Thomas Kuhn, an American physicist, historian, and philosopher of science, was born on July 18, 1922, in Cincinnati, Ohio, and passed away on June 17, 1996, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at age 73 of lung cancer. The controversial book he wrote in 1962, called The Structure of Scientific Revolution, first introduced his premise, the term paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is a fundamental change in an individual's or society's view of how things work in the world, or changing the way we think. The Scientific Revolution and Marxism.
At the age of 18, Thomas Kuhn went to Cambridge to attend Harvard University. At Harvard, Kuhn was doing his undergraduate in physics. During his sophomore year, America entered the Second World War in 1941. Because of this, Kuhn decided to attend summer education in order to speed up the process towards achieving his degree. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Physics during 1943. In the summer following his graduation, Kuhn joined the Radio Research Laboratory's theoretical group. This group was in charge of finding countermeasures against the rival and enemy country Germany's technology and radars. This theoretical group flew Kuhn to a laboratory in the United Kingdom to continue his research on the enemy's radar systems. The Royal Air Force assisted on the flight to the beautiful country France to look over and research recently captured German radar installations. When the war ended in Europe in 1945, Thomas Kuhn returned to Harvard and graduated with a master's degree in physics in 1946 and a doctorate in 1949. His PhD thesis was the cohesive energy of monovalent metals as a function of the atomic quantum defects. Thomas Kuhn died on June 17, 1996 of lung cancer in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Many important wars and events also took place during his life, including the Vietnam War on November 1, 1955 to April 30, 1975, the Cold War, 1947 to 1991, the Korean War, July 25, 1950 to July 27, 1953, World War II, September 1, 1939 to September 2, 1945, and the Cuban Missile Crisis, October 16 to 28, 1962.
The most important idea proposed by Thomas Kuhn was that of the concept of paradigm shift. To truly understand what a paradigm shift is, it is crucial to define both paradigm and paradigm theories. A paradigm is a comprehensive model of understanding that provides a field's members with viewpoints and rules on how to look at problems and how to solve them. A paradigm theory is a general theory that provides scientists working in a particular field with a broad theoretical framework. Kuhn calls this their conceptual scheme. It provides them with their key concepts and methodologies, and gives their research a general direction and a goal. It represents an exemplary model of good science within a particular discipline. Kuhn was interested in the way science makes progress. He believed that science couldn't get going until most of those working within a field agree upon a paradigm. Once this happens, you can have the sort of collaboration and teamwork that is a characteristic of professional science today. Once a paradigm theory is established, then those working within it can start doing what Kuhn calls normal science. Normal science is the business of solving specific puzzles, collecting data, and making calculations. Examples of what normal science includes are working out the distances of planets within the solar system from the Sun, completing the map of the human genome, and establishing the evolutionary descent of a certain species, such as Homo sapiens. Though, every so often, normal science throws up anomalies, results that can't easily be explained within the dominant paradigm. A few anomalies by themselves wouldn't justify leaving a paradigm theory that has been successful in the past. However, there are times when these inexplicable results start piling up, and this eventually leads to what Thomas Kuhn describes as a crisis. After a crisis, a paradigm shift occurs. A paradigm shift takes place when one paradigm theory is replaced by another.
Thomas Kuhn's ideas belong to the philosophical field of the philosophy of science. The philosophy of science is a subfield of philosophy concerned with the foundations, methods, and implications of science within the real world. The general questions of this field concern basic science, the reliability of scientific theories, the ultimate purpose of science, and how these findings can be applied to the world and our daily lives. This discipline overlaps with another field of thinking called epistemology. Both of these branches of philosophy explore everything from mathematics to natural sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. The philosophy of science is complex and covers many questions, such as the relationship between science and the truth. The difference between the philosophy of science and epistemology is that the philosophy of science is the use of scientific knowledge and ideas to justify future theories, whereas epistemology is concerned with what distinguishes justified belief from opinion.
Kuhn's importance does not lie in the contagiousness of one of his ideas, but in the fact that he single-handedly modified the way we perceive the world. Before Kuhn, our view of science was controlled by philosophical thoughts about how it developed with scientific advancements, as the addition of new truths to the stock of old truths, or the increasing approximation of theories to the truth, and in the odd case, the correction of past errors, as the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy says. Thomas Kuhn lived during the Second World War and aided in tracking German radar installations. This man not only changed science forever, but also helped the United States and Allied countries during the latest World War.
Thomas Kuhn's contributions to the philosophy of science not only marked a break with several key confident set of ideas, but also introduced a new style of philosophy of science. His account of the development of science held that science enjoys periods of stable growth, punctuated by occasional revolutionary findings. To this situation, Kuhn added the controversial incommensurability thesis, that new theories are lacking basic comparison to their predecessors. They do not sufficiently overlap to permit scientists to directly compare the theories or to cite empirical evidence favoring one theory over the other. Kuhn believed that in order to have this overlap, the scientists that are studying the same field must work together to achieve similar and credible results. This belief is applied to modern science as well. When a new theory is thought of, its credibility is based off of its connection to previous theories and the justification given through logic and evidence. This shows that Kuhn's work not only impacted how modern scientists interact and work with each other, but it also changed the way the credibility of scientific theories is evaluated.
In my opinion, Thomas Kuhn is the greatest philosopher. He completely altered our modern world with the paradigm shift theory. All the work that he has done helped us further our understanding of science. Before Thomas, the understanding of the science was based on religion and philosophical ideas and theories. Kuhn explains how any advancement in science goes through phases. These phases have small anomalies that cannot be explained and are left aside. The problem is that these anomalies build up and scientists start to think about them. They rethink the paradigm or the old way of thinking and finally come to a conclusion that it is not correct. This is what Kuhn calls the paradigm shift. This philosopher had great knowledge and intelligence and used his aptitudes wisely. He helped the world with his discoveries. The impact he left behind after he passed away gave us a better understanding of teamwork and scientific advancements. Scientists went from walking to running towards new theories. Without Kuhn, scientists would stick to one paradigm and ignore the anomalies. Thomas made them realize that anomalies occur and we need to change what causes them. To do so, the paradigm needs to be modified.
The reason I believe that Thomas Kuhn is the greatest philosopher is because he changed the way scientists work together and how they advance within their respective fields. Kuhn believed that science was advancing, but very slowly, and and scientists weren't making any significant strides in answering unanswered questions. He believed that scientists need to work collectively together in order to make significant advances within their field. He decided to implement this strategy, which proved to be successful. Ever since, scientists have been rapidly advancing and improving within their fields. Every year, science makes new discoveries and answers old questions, whether that is in the field of medicine, physics, chemistry, or even astronomy. The growth of science from year to year is leaps and bounds ahead of what it was before Thomas Kuhn. From this, we can see how Thomas Kuhn has impacted the way scientists interact with each other and has completely changed the way we move forward in science. He has allowed us to make new discoveries every year, something which was considered impossible before Kuhn. He has also impacted the process of judging future theories. Before Kuhn, new theories were solely based off of their supporting evidence. However, Thomas Kuhn completely changed the way we choose new theories to replace old ones. He suggested that we should look at the similarities between the old and the new, while still using logic and evidence in order to find new theories that we can use to make changes in the future. From this, we can see that Thomas Kuhn not only changed and accelerated the way scientists work and advance within their fields, but he also changed the way they justify future theories. Thomas Kuhn's impact is one that will be felt by scientists today and by scientists in the future for years to come. I believe that Thomas Kuhn is the most interesting philosopher because he managed to make massive changes and improvements to science while the world was in total chaos. During the Second World War, he managed to serve his country by aiding them in locating and finding countermeasures to enemy radar while still pursuing his research and continuing with his studies. Kuhn, somehow in the middle of complete turmoil, continued to make changes and improvements to the scientific world. He passed the general examinations test and received his master's degree only 1 year after the war ended in 1946. It brings up the question, how did he get the time to do all this while in the middle of a war-stricken country, while still helping America with finding countermeasures to German radar? It's very impressive and shows a great deal of motivation and drive, which I personally find is very interesting. Another reason I find Kuhn very interesting is because he found new ways for scientists to improve within their field. He thought of things that some of the greatest minds before him were unable to think. He decided that scientists should work together to achieve the best results, instead of working alone and trying to make change. What's most interesting about all of this is that nobody before him was able to think of these things. He somehow came up with these ideas, and that's what I find truly impressive. He was able to think of a different way to judge future scientific theories. Thomas Kuhn was capable of thinking outside the box, something I truly struggle with, since I like to have everything in a certain system and I prefer everything being in order. I'm completely fascinated by his ability to think like anyone else. In my opinion, Thomas Kuhn's ability to think is second to none, and that is what I find truly fascinating and interesting about this philosopher.
After all the research I have done, I can gladly say Thomas Kuhn is the most interesting because he helped in one of the biggest and most devastating wars that ever occurred. He made insane advancements at the same time as millions were fighting in Europe. He flew to Europe while the countries were fighting to get a closer look at German radar installations. He contributed to finding and destroying Nazi radars and technological systems. During his entire career, he wrote books explaining the way he thought about science, one being The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, which explains the idea of a paradigm shift. I personally find this very interesting because on his own, during the most prominent war, he was capable of thinking about science and making new scientific terms and advancements. Most of his work and ideologies came up during the Second World War, and that is very impressive. During a time of depression and great agitation, he was able to keep his mind straight and focus on his work. At the same time as the war was happening, he finished his bachelor's degree. The second he heard a war was starting, he went directly to summer school to complete his degree as fast as possible. He finished that degree in 1943. In 1949, he graduated with a doctorate in physics 4 years after the war ended. In my opinion, Thomas Kuhn has the most interesting history of all philosophers. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.